Should be a very interesting show today. We have two guests coming up. In the second half of the show, we will have Dr. Amy in here. You can follow her. Let me get her info up here. Oh, shoot. It's on another email that I haven't received yet. So I will give you Dr. Amy's stuff when we come back from the little break. But our first guest is Gabriel, Julian Assange's brother. Let's see, Gabriel Shipton. I've met his father as well. He was a lovely gentleman. And we're going to talk about whether Julian Assange is a hero or a treasonous criminal, one or the other. Seems like everyone has strong opinions. Also, I've stumbled on Dr. Amy here now. I finally found it, the Egg Whisperer. We're going to talk about how she uses Niagen to enhance fertility. You can follow her at Egg Whisperer on X, _Egg Whisperer. Okay, be right back after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Summer is right around the corner, and unfortunately, so are those visible dark spots, sunspots, other blemishes that the sun leaves behind. Until now, the deep correcting serum from our friends at Genucel visibly fades away dark marks, sunspots, scars, and other signs of discoloration all over your skin. You'd be amazed at how quickly you'll see results. Now you can enjoy your summer, sun, beach, barbecues without the annoying spots. And as always, Genucel guarantees you'll see the results or your money back, no questions asked. Right now you can save over 50% off Susan's skincare essentials at Genucel.com/Drew, plus save an extra 25% automatically applied at checkout for world-class skincare that works.
I know I'm a snob about the products I use on my face. Everybody knows it. Every time I go to the dermatologist's office, they're just rows and rows of different creams. And then when I get to the counter, they're overpriced. All kinds of products that you can all find at Genucel.com.
Order right now and you get the Genucel Ultra Retinol for a hydrating, moisturizing effect on the delicate skin during the harsh summer months. Visit Genucel.com/Drew now and get free shipping. That is Genucel.com/Drew, GENUCEL.com/DREW. And finally, GEO-backed taxes. Pandemic relief is over, along with hiring thousands of new agents and field officers. The IRS has kicked off 2024 by sending over 5 million pay-up letters to those who have unfiled tax returns or balances owed. Don't waive your rights and speak with them on your own. They are not your friends. Tax Network USA, a trusted tax relief firm, has saved over $1 billion in back taxes for their clients, and they can help you secure the best deal possible. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help you, whether it's business or personal taxes, even if you have the means to pay or you are on a fixed income. They can help finally resolve your tax burdens once and for all. Call 800-245-6000 for a private free consultation, or visit drdrew.com.com/TNUSA. That is drdrew.com/TNUSA. So let me get my act together here with the materials for our new guest, which, as I said, will be Dr. Amy, who's a fertility doctor, the Egg Whisperer, and we're going to be talking about Niagen and its effect on fertility. You can follow her at _Egg Whisperer. In addition to being a board-certified, I believe, residency in gynecology, at least I know she's done the residency at Harvard. She has also done a fellowship in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, and has a master's in public health management from University of Michigan. But first, we're going to be talking to Gabriel Shipton. You can follow Gabriel on X, Gabriel Shipton. He, in addition to being Julian Assange's brother, is a film producer and an advocate for his brother. The Wikileaks founder, Julian Assange. You can follow Gabriel at, as I said, Gabriel on X at Gabriel Shipton. And we're going to watch a little bit of, I think, a trailer. Let me bring Gabriel Gabe Inns, so he can sort of set this up for us. Welcome, Gabe. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
And he is actually in Australia as we speak. It's 8 o'clock in the morning there. We appreciate his showing up for us. I wonder if you want to set up this little clip we have that we were going to play.
Yeah, so this is a trailer for a documentary that I produced about really about my family and their fight to free Julian. We followed Julian's wife, Stella, and my father as they battled for 2 or 3 years to free Julian when he was put inside a maximum security prison back in 2019, where he remains to this day, Belmarsh Prison, just outside of London. And so really it's an emotional look, at a family fighting to save the life of their loved one. And we couldn't actually film with Julian because he's inside a maximum security prison. So the audience really learns about Julian through the people who are closest to him, and that's my dad, Julian's dad, and Stella, his wife, who are incredible advocates for freedom of speech and also for Julian's human rights.
I have met your dad. He's a lovely, soft-spoken gentleman, but he's a good advocate for your brother. Let's watch this trailer.
Julian Assange is the hero of our time.
He was the darling of the left. All of a sudden, he's a puppet of Russia.
My name is John Shipton. I'm Julian Assange's father.
Wikileaks found that Julian Assange has been arrested.
One of the most notorious and controversial figures in custody.
Assange will remain behind bars until that extradition hearing, which has been set down for the end of February.
I urge the Department of Justice to drop the charges.
The maximum jail sentence of 175 years.
Because he published the truth.
So, Gabe, help us understand, people that maybe are not deep in his story. It gets a little, I got to admit, I've read a bit about it, and it gets very confusing even to me, how we understand what happened to him. And I'm assuming as you represent his cause, you're representing his thinking on the matter, why he released these things that he's being accused of having done. Tell me how we understand this.
Well, Julian, you have to really go back to the creation of WikiLeaks and what WikiLeaks actually was, a website that really protected journalists and protected leakers. And it was founded in 2006. So we're talking, way back in not the early days of the internet, but this sort of another flourishing of the internet around the time of, Facebook was starting up, Google was starting up, these sorts of, huge multinational companies, but also a little WikiLeaks whistleblower protection website, journalist protection website started up around then as well. And what problem that Julian identified was that in this digital age, leakers are very hard to be protected. Their digital footprint exists. They're easily traceable through that. And so that was a real challenge into getting these big leaks out to the press and out to the public. And so Julian, who had a unique understanding, Julian's a technologist and a programmer. And so he had a unique understanding of cryptography technology, as well as the architecture of the internet, and brought these things together to create a website and anonymous Dropbox for leakers that would protect their anonymity and therefore increase this sort of information coming out from these institutions. And really, I think one of the key motivators to really creating this website was the Iraq War and the big lie around the Iraq War, the weapons of mass destruction that never really existed. And so back then, this big lie that was propagated by everyone, Colin Powell famously sat at the UN and held up these papers, that turned out to be completely false. That was propagated throughout corporate media, through every basically every masthead, every newspaper propagated these lies, and we ended up, Australia included, as they were an ally of the United States in this war.
Can I stop you? Can I stop you before you go on with Julian's story? We've gotten used to this now, I think. We've come to understand that this is how media works and how government pulls its strings. Here we are 20 years later, and COVID sort of laid bare this phenomenon, and it's still happening in ways that are difficult to understand. I wonder if you just for a second, before we go back to his narrative, pull me into the present. How do you understand this present moment, and why aren't things changing?
Well, this is exactly right, Drew, because if you look at WikiLeaks, WikiLeaks was this place that took this power out of the media's hands, out of the corporate media's hands, and put it in the public's hands. We were able to look at the source material, look at the leaks ourselves, instead of them being hidden behind this corporate shield in the corporate media. And that really scared the people, these, what Julian described as conspiracies, these people in corrupt government, corporate media, and the sort of military industrial complex, if you will, and how they collaborated.
So I'm getting used to thinking about these things. Is what Mike Benz calls the blob. And you got to throw in the intelligence community there. That's mostly what he calls the blob. But I'm wondering, I've never heard anybody speak about how that was functioning then. Sort of the Twitter files has laid bare how it's functioning in the days of social media. Would the White House call up some executive at CNN? Or how was the information, controlled from at least our government? Or if you found maybe how Australia does it, I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, yes. You would have those relationships. That's sort of what they call access journalism. And so, a journalist, say at the New York Times, would have their sources within government. And that's what would happen. They would call them up and they would say, "Oh, here's a story. We want you to push this story, or here's a tidbit of information. Go and investigate it." And if the reporter didn't go do that bidding, then the source or the person inside the government would cut them off. You also have, within these legacy media institutions, there's sort of a culture that exists, and it reinforces itself. It reinforces that reporting and that sort of culture that all these reporters follow. They all went to the same schools. They all have the same friends. They all go to the same parties. They all rub shoulders with the people in Washington. So they don't want to piss off their friends either. They still want to go to the cocktail drinks. They still want to be invited to dinner. And so they keep on supporting those narratives.
When Chris Cuomo was debating with Dave Smith, he said, you get a call from the boss. Somebody calls you and you don't want that call. And I thought, oh man, they're still doing this. Somebody somewhere, I don't know if the bosses get the calls from the government and then they come down on the air staff. It's just astonishing that this. You would think that the journalists and the executives at these so-called journalistic institutions would bristle against that and figure out a way to get out from under it. But here we are again. And so he's in Australia. He's upset about the so-called weapons of mass destruction nonsense that got us all into a war. How did he get into the U.S.? Did he come over here? How did the whole U.S. part of this happen to him?
Well, what happened is he had one of the biggest leak of all time, still one of the biggest leaks of all time, which was the Chelsea Manning.
I understand. Yeah, but was he still in Australia at that point?
He was. So he started to move around with WikiLeaks, and so he was just roaming around the world essentially. And so he wasn't in Australia.
People's crosshairs to stay away from people identifying him.
Going from place to place, staying out of people's crosshairs, speaking at different events around the world. Garnering support for WikiLeaks and the things that he was doing, because it wasn't a commercial venture. WikiLeaks was funded totally by donations. They didn't have advertisers. or anything like that. So he was constantly traveling, doing speaking events, and doing this. He was using jurisdictional arbitrage in a free speech sense to find the best places to actually publish from that couldn't be censored. And so WikiLeaks was totally uncensorable in that sense, because of this unique use of this jurisdictions and their different free speech protections around the world.
At this point, were you and your family worried about him?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Well,
very much so.
It's not. So to me, it's not obvious at that point. Well, but by the time Chelsea stuff gets involved, obviously I understand that that's when he gets upset, worried. But before that, it just looks like what journalism should be doing. They should be doing something like that now, but they're not.
Yeah, and I think, when we really started to get worried about him was in 2008 when he published a document from Kenya, and it was a big report on corruption on the Kenyan government, and it actually led to a change of government in Kenya, and some of the people involved in that leak got murdered, and that's when we really understood the power of WikiLeaks. That those in power were really scared of this sort of information coming out and not being able to be stopped. Once it was on the WikiLeaks website, everyone around the world could report on it. Every outlet could report on it, and it couldn't be stopped. And that's when we really saw the danger around WikiLeaks and how the powerful might come after Julian to really try and shut it down if their crimes were exposed on the website.
And this, really is where the question begins to arise. Is he somebody that should be condemned for recklessly sharing information that ends up to harm to other people? No judgment on whether the people deserve anything they get, but it harms them. Versus, is he a crusader for the truth that we should be just backing, as thoroughly as possible? How do we reconcile these two points of view?
Well, I think this harm, this sort of harm allegation is what
you just told me that people died in Nigeria. You just told me that was from your mouth.
Those were actually those were people who were involved in the leaking of the information. They weren't actual government employees or government sources. So what the allegation is from the US DOJ or those people, it's actually. It's all BS actually, because in Chelsea Manning's trial, the Obama administration actually spent $10 million trying to find somebody who'd come to actual physical harm from Chelsea Manning's leaks, and they had to admit under oath that they could not find anybody who came to any source, any government source, or anybody in the military or working for the government who came to any harm from these leaks. But what these leaks did expose was state criminality, was the actual victims in the leaks were civilians. There were civilians who were killed by a helicopter gunship in Iraq, which is the most famous probably release of Julian's, was a helicopter gunship, video from a helicopter gunship in Baghdad that portrayed or showed the killing of two Reuters journalists on the streets of Baghdad, unarmed Reuters journalists, and then the shooting up of a van that came to rescue them, a van that had children who were on their way to school. Their father stopped to rescue these injured civilians, and the helicopter gunship shot up that vehicle as well. So that's where the actual harm is in these leaks. It's what was exposed. That's where the criminality actually lays, not with Julian and the people who reported on it, the journalists who brought this information to us that we never would have known about.
And so the Chelsea Manning trial, it doesn't find any harm to anybody in particular. Why is that the continued drumbeat? The continued accusation is it's harming people. It's, it has downstream effects. Is it hyperbole? Is it just, again, misinformation that they get to drum up? Or is there some argument that's has teeth?
No, it's a false narrative, and once you dig into it, once you scratch the surface, you find out that the prosecutors who went after Chelsea Manning and the prosecutors who went after Julian, who are going after Julian, have actually admitted under oath that there was no harm committed. But within these communities, within the State Department and the intelligence communities, they have to tell themselves this. They have to say to themselves, well, he committed great harm, so we have to chase him down and chase him to the end of the earth, keep him in a maximum security prison without even being convicted, just to set this example that if you expose our crimes, if you do this sort of thing, then we're going to come after you and you actually have no rights. And that is the punishment, and it's an example set for everyone else. So to me, this harm narrative is totally false and has been proven so and admitted to by the prosecutors.
What is your hypothesis as to why they're being so aggressive with him? Are they fearful that he has something more under the hood that he's going to release, or is it really just to make an example of him?
Well, it's just so. I mean, WikiLeaks. You have to look back of when actually Julian was taken off the scene, because I think that is indicative of the sort of quietening or silencing of this whole information landscape. And that was after the 2016 election. WikiLeaks put out Vault 7 leaks, which showed these CIA hacking tools that the CIA was using. They could hack into any computer, any Apple iPhone. They could hack into your TV to turn into a listening device. And these tools that actually lost control of, they were out in the wild, the expression is. These hacking tools were able to be accessed by anybody. And so WikiLeaks exposed this in 2017. And that's when this campaign to go after Julian was really ramped up. And then the timeline from there to when he was arrested in 2019, and then we saw what happened in 2020, and then following that, the pandemic, etc. Those years, the information landscape totally changed. And you can match that up with the Twitter files as well. When was Twitter really gone after and co-opted? Was after the 2016 elections. And so there was this real push to control the information landscape after the 2016 election and going into the 2020 United States election. And I think Julian is part of that. And having WikiLeaks off the scene meant that the information that we get could be controlled more thoroughly. Because WikiLeaks was totally uncontrollable, uncensorable. Everything that the governments had tried to do since it was founded to shut it down hadn't worked. And what they needed to do was get Julian and put him in prison so that this website could stop publishing information. And it's not just an example to publishers around the world. It's also an example to people who use technology to bring us information, because that's essentially what Julian is. He's a technologist who used the internet, used cryptography to, make this leaking machine that exposed all these crimes. So really, it's an attack on and a message to those technologists as well. If you use your intelligence to create something that will expose us or that will bring truthful information to the public, we have ways of going after you. We can use our Espionage Act, which is a 1917 federal law, a very arcane law that hasn't changed in all those years, that's usually used for whistleblowers. We can use that to go after publishers, to go after people who make websites or anybody that exposes information that we don't want out there. So I think having that timeline of when they needed WikiLeaks off the scene, I think is very relevant to understanding why Julian is still in prison and why he is being pursued so harshly.
Well, the other thing is, by the way, I'm imagining it's all governments all over the world are afraid of him, right? I mean, I think that may be why he can't find a safe haven.
Yeah, I would say so, but there is a bit of a change and sort of rising tide of support for Julian. So you have people like Lula da Silva in the president of Brazil who've come out and called for his release. The Australian government, the Australian Prime Minister has even been advocating for Julian and been calling for his release, as well as the Australian Parliament. So there is popular support around the world for Julian. Even the German Chancellor has come out and said that he shouldn't be extradited to the United States. So there is, although these governments, they do want to keep hiding, their misdeeds or their state criminality, we're getting to a point now where Julian's popularity and the punishment that he's gone through is seen as so severe that there is this upwelling of support from around the world. But yeah, you're right. The governments, they don't want to have their crimes or misdeeds, out in the public. They want to keep them hidden. They overclassify is another technique they use. Daniel Ellsberg, the famous Pentagon Papers whistleblower, was also talking about overclassification all the time. Every little piece of document gets classified so that if you release it, you're violating law. When the documents are, some of them are just totally inane and don't warrant that sort of classification. But it becomes routine within these institutions, so that everything becomes hidden and they can operate in the darkness.
It's very interesting. I mean, even without accusing anyone of crimes, it seems like they're obsessed with controlling information and the information flow, and it just, again, in today's world, occurs to me that for journalists to be journalists, which is almost never happens now, it seems to me that they need tools like this to fight the restrictions on flow of information.
Yes, that's totally right, and WikiLeaks actually became that's where leaks went. That's where all these big data leaks went, and journalists around the world could access them. And WikiLeaks was one of the most cited websites for many, many years on the internet, because it was this trove of documents that anyone around the world could access. They weren't hidden in the New York Times. They weren't hidden in the Washington Post. They were out there for all of us to see and use. And Julian really coined this term he called it scientific journalism, where you could hold up the leaked document and next to the article, and you could see, this is where the bias was, or what wasn't reported on, or what was reported on. Similar to scientific information, where you have the data next to the paper. He coined this term scientific journalism, where you had the leak as well as the report on it, which we don't get from, say, the New York Times or these establishment media organizations.
Well, it seems like they've lost the desire to hold government accountable, to speak truth to power. They seem to want to speak about the power on their behalf. That seems to be their primary pastime, with an occasional little softball here or there, but no, whatever. Well, listen, I've taken a little break here. It's Gabriel Shipton. You can follow him at Gabriel Shipton on Twitter. Is there a movie website?
Yes, there will. Ithacamovie.com is the website for Ithaca. We're working on a release. Ithaca movie. Yes, and we're working on a digital
Ithaca
release.
Movie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And we're when we come, I like the city, Ithaca, Ithaca. We're going to take a little break here, and we come back, I want to talk some more about the movie. Thank you, Gabriel. We'll be right back. Joint and muscle pains are exhausting and frustrating, but I've got a over-the-counter medication I'll introduce you to that provides great relief using the power of, check it out, chili peppers. Capsidin is made with a proprietary formula that contains no non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents, no opioids, no anesthetic or steroid, nothing, no chance for addiction, no side effects, no chance it's going to interact with other medication you might be taking. Capsidin contains capsaicin, which is the substance in chili peppers that burns your tongue. That gives you that burny feeling. And of course, I've recommended capsaicin creams to patients over the years, but other capsaicin creams burn your skin. That's what makes capsidin so unique. In clinical trials, capsidin has actually been demonstrated not to burn.
I've been using capsidin to relieve my pain in my hands and my wrist from carpal tunnel syndrome and arthritis. The results have been amazing. I use it every day during my show, and I highly recommend it.
Get the pain relief you need from various sources, even backache, sprains, bruises even. Order now at capsidin.com/Drew to get a 15% discount plus free shipping. That is CAPSADYN, capsidin.com/DREW. There are 4 distinct and outstanding medical kits from the Wellness Company: a first aid kit, a travel emergency kit. I was very instrumental in developing that one. I love it. A COVID emergency kit, but let's unpack their medical emergency kit, the one that gives you immediate access to treatment for a variety of medical conditions. Here's the kit: pneumonia, upper respiratory infections, skin infections, gastrointestinal infections. You'll have on-hand medication that will even serve as immediate prophylaxis against a sexually transmitted infection, rapid intervention for Lyme and other tick-borne illnesses. Of course, we've added Tamiflu to our kits in case the avian flu should become human-to-human transmissible. Then we know something is up and we want to be ready. And look, we want to be covered for bioterrorism even. And of course, the Nobel Prize-winning antiparasitic ivermectin, and a how-to guide and a virtual consultant. Get access to these prescription meds by going to drdrew.com/TWC to save 15% off. That is $30 off the medical emergency kit. drdrew.com/TWC for 15% off the kit and any of their kits or their supplements. Do it now. drdrew.com/TWC. Of course, I'm a fan of the healthy aging supplement True Niagen. I've been taking it almost for a decade myself. This supplement boosts NAD, which your cells need to survive properly metabolically, and it goes down as we age. It does so with a nutrient called nicotinamide riboside, or NR, specifically patented form of NR called Niagen. It's the most efficient and trusted NAD booster. NAD can also play a role in reproductive health. Boosting NAD is recommended with prenatal vitamins for women over 30 looking to start a family. Here's Dr. Amy, also known as the Egg Whisperer, a highly influential specialist in this area.
As NAD levels go down, and it starts going down in our 30s, that's the same age that our egg supply also dwindles. So I'm fighting for every single woman's chance to have a baby, and repleting NAD is one of the greatest tools in my tool chest that I've been using now for almost 6 years.
True Niagen is an amazing NAD booster. You're going to want to add it to your reproductive health arsenal. And of course, it's in our family of Dr. Drew sponsors. Go to drdrew.com/True Niagen for 20% off your order. That is drdrew.com/True Niagen. Enter Dr. Drew at checkout for 20% off.
And that's just trouble in a relationship.
Sean, who are you? Like Dr. Drew all of a sudden?
And Dr. Amy will be joining us in a few minutes. First, though, I want to tell you about Safe Sleeve, founded by 2 California engineering grads who wanted to educate the public about EMF radiation exposure risks. Dozens of studies have shown that EMF radiation can be harmful, especially when it's coming from devices that are always close to you, like your phone. That's why Safe Sleeve is designed to give you peace of mind knowing you and your devices are protected, and you're by lab-tested shielding technology that can block over 99% of RF and 92% of ELF radiation. Cases also provide military-grade drop protection and come in a variety of styles and colors that include a built-in wallet with RFD protection. I have one of those on my phone right now. This is just the cover of the phone. I have the wallet up on my bathroom, frankly. I'm using it for travel tomorrow. Their cases also provide drop protection, as I said. I love it. And it's not just for your phone. Safe Sleeve offers anti-radiation products for your iPad, laptop, even new RF blocking blanket. Check them out now and use the promo code DRDREW for 10% off. Just go to drdrew.com/safesleeve. Use promo code Dr. Drew. That is drdrew.com/safesleeve. Look at it, very, very, very stylish on top of that and solid. I've dropped my phone twice today already. All right, let's get Gabe back in here. We're going to talk about the movie, Ithaca movie. Gabe, we tried the website. It doesn't go through. Did we get that address correct?
It's ITHAKAMOVI.
Okay, I beg your pardon. I thought it was like the city here in New York where Cornell lives, Cornell University. And why Ithaca? What's the significance?
Well, it's there's a poem by Cavafy called Ithaca that my dad listens to a lot when we're out on the road. And it's a poem that really talks about focusing on the journey and not the destination. And so, us as Julian's family, when we're fighting against the U.S. Department of Justice and all these institutions that are pursuing Julian, there are many, many moments where we feel helpless and we feel like that we can't do any more. But listening to this poem really reminded us that it's not to focus on the destination, but focus on who we've met along the way, the new friendships that we've made, and what we've learned in this fight to free Julian. So that's why we called it Ithaca, and I recommend anybody check out that poem. There's a great reading by Sean Connery on YouTube that is worth a listen, and it's very moving to me, and really gives us motivation to keep going in this fight.
And are there specific things, with a C comes up all the time if you're in this country, if you're watching the film, what do you imagine is going to surprise people the most?
Well, there's specific things about during the last days of the Donald Trump presidency around efforts to secure Julian a pardon. I think they're very revealing about the forces that are actually pursuing Julian. They sort of uncloak themselves for a brief moment during that time. So I think that's quite revealing in the film. Also, there are some images of Julian hasn't been seen for the last 5 years. He's been in this maximum security prison. His voice has been taken away from him, but he does get phone calls to the outside world. And so he's communicating with my father, John, and Stella, and we capture a lot of those intimate conversations between them. So that is quite revealing of how they're supporting him and how he's getting through this whole process. But really, I think people will find it actually inspiring, watching these. My dad's he's an architect, a builder, a designer who's been thrust on this journey, and the way he handles things, the way he attacks every day. I think people will find it incredibly inspiring. Those who are fighting for a cause bigger than themselves, I often understand that and understand, how they stay motivated, how they keep going. And I think, that is really the message of the film is these normal people who have been thrust on this path and how they stay motivated and keep fighting.
I didn't trust my knowledge of ancient history and poetry, but I thought it was a Homeric poet that referenced Ithaca, and lo and behold, it is the Odyssey, and it is I think he goes back to Ithaca, is where he's trying. It's this sort of idealized land that he's trying to get to, but the poem, the Homeric poem, is in fact about the journey. And this poem that your dad likes was originally the early 20th century homage to that journey. So we will watch the film. Congratulations. It's distributed throughout the world now?
Yes, well, we're going to release it. Actually, there'll be an online release on July 8th in the United States and North America. So, yeah, if you follow along on the Twitter and on the website, all that release information will drop there. Ithaca Movie on Twitter and Instagram, or Twitter X. That's with Ithaca with a K, or follow my Twitter X, Gabriel Shipton, and we'll be posting up the release information very soon. So, yeah, it'll be out there and available to watch for everyone July 8th.
And your dad, that's your dad there. I can't see it close up, but it looks like your dad on the movie poster with a lot of acclaim from various festivals. That's a big deal.
Yes, yeah, it did very well. It did very well around the festival circuit, critical acclaim as well, many reviews. Positive reviews, even in the New York Times and the Guardian, Financial Times in England, 4-star reviews there. So it is critically acclaimed and has been very, shown all over the world. And yeah, we're really excited about releasing it online on July 8th in North America.
Is there any realistic chance that there'll be a pardon coming his way?
Well, we'll definitely be fighting for a pardon and asking President Biden to pardon Julian. I think what's happening at the moment now is he has won the right to appeal in the UK courts, and so he has another appeal hearing on the 9th and 10th of July. And the focus now is on freedom of expression in this appeal. And that will Julian have the same freedom of expression rights that he has in the United Kingdom if he's extradited to the United States? And so the hearing is now boiled down to these freedom of expression arguments, and so I think it's going to be particularly embarrassing. Yeah, it's complicated. It's legally complicated
because it's the First Amendment here, freedom of expression there. It's going to be well. And when is that likely to happen? Is that all going to be done in writing?
9th and 10th of July is that hearing date in the United Kingdom. Yeah. But there's lots of action going on in the Congress as well. There's a House Resolution 934, which is a Free Julian Assange resolution that has 12 co-sponsors on it. We're adding one co-sponsor a month. They're lobbying very hard for that resolution. So there is building momentum in the Congress as well as around the world for these calls for Julian to be free.
And are there things you want people to do to support him?
Well, we're always asking people to contact their representative, contact their congressperson, ask them to sign on to House Resolution 934. Always encouraging people to get involved in their own democracy. It's not enough just to vote once a month, or once every 4 years rather. You have to continually stay involved, continually pester your congresspeople and your representatives to get them to do what you want. At the end of the day, they represent you, and you still have a voice in that system.
And he has not been pardoned. Do you have a theory as to why that has been the case? And is it different for different administrations, or what are your theories? And then also, I'd like to get your thoughts as we sort of wrap things up here. What your thoughts are about? I mean, you've sort of tilted your hand a little bit about how you're calling them criminals and they operate in secrecy, but your sort of thoughts on government generally in our modern era. So first, who's not pardoning and why, and your overall thoughts on what's happening in representative so-called governments.
Well, we were very close at the end of the Trump administration. We had the pardon drawn up on Donald Trump's desk. He was considering it. He's actually said that he would seriously consider a pardon if he was made president again. But what was reported at the time was Tucker Carlson reported that Mitch McConnell had called Trump and said, your impeachment is not going to go well for you if you pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. So that was one of the reasons that was reported on that Trump did not give him give Julian a pardon. We expected something to happen in the Biden administration, but Biden came into power, and then just a couple of months later, the Department of Justice said they would continue pursuing Julian Assange. So I think Biden has now said he's considering the Australian request to drop the charges, because Australia is a close ally to the United States, and they've been advocating strongly with the administration. So there is some shifting ground, and I think we're closer than we ever have been to getting Julian out of prison. But I think there's always, with your second part of your question, I think there's always a tension or an interplay between, or there should be at least, between journalism, between revealing the truth and these government institutions. The government institutions, there's a lot of good people in them still. I've met many of them who respect the Constitution, who are trying to do good work. But there is this propensity for institutions to protect themselves. And I think there really needs to be that tension between that information being revealed and being public, so that we as a society can make better decisions about our institutions, and the institutions keeping that information secret if they actually need to. And that's the fourth pillar of democracy, right? That's the journalistic function.
Supposedly. It seems like it's been
exactly.
sort of fallen down on the job, so to speak, lately. But okay. Well, listen, Gabe, thank you for joining us here.
As well. Yeah.
I get it. I totally see it. I think it has more traction now because of the way things are going, I suspect. So people kind of appreciate that somebody has an instrument that can, work against things like Twitter files and Facebook and YouTube and the things that are censoring us constantly or sort of controlling what information we get, because we can't handle the truth. Don't you know that, Gabe? Can't handle it. We're too weak. We're too weak-minded. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for the movie. Thank you for fighting the good fight. IthacaMovie.com, correct? With a K?
Yes, that's the one.
All right. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
That is Gabriel Shipton. You can follow him at X, Gabriel Shipton. He is in Australia, so it's like 9 o'clock in the morning there. We're going to switch gears, and we are going to talk about fertility for a few minutes with Dr. Amy. She is known as the Egg Whisperer. She's also a partner with somebody talking to my headphones here.
She's not back yet. She's going to be, wait, 1 second.
She's not with us yet?
Oh, she's back. There she is. I found her.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'll edit this from the podcast.
Let me just give you a little bit. We're trying to spare our podcast listeners so much, in fact, that we have to pull out of here. She's a true Niagen partner like myself and an enthusiast like myself, but she takes it like myself. She is a UCLA Medical School grad, also residency in OBGYN at Harvard, fellowship in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, and a master's in public health management from University of Michigan. You can find out more about our sort of a relationship with True Niagen at dr.com/True Niagen, TRUNIAGEN, and follow Dr. Amy on X_Egg Whisperer. Dr. Amy, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me. It is such a pleasure. Huge fan of yours, Dr. Drew. I listened to you when I was in medical school with my sister, and it was so fun to just listen to you and Adam on Love Lines, and it's just such an honor to be here. And all my friends are listening, and so excited to be.
Oh, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have you. So I'm just curious about your sister. Your parents were paying for 2 medical schools simultaneously?
They were.
Any time in the last 40 years, that's not good. That was not good.
No.
Yeah. Good for them. And so you've got into fertility, and it's a huge topic. It's an important topic. We had triplets in the era of the super multiple sort of window of the early 90s as the completion of a fertility campaign. Just give me a little update on why you got into fertility and what the kind of new issues are on that landscape.
Yeah, I mean, why I got into fertility has everything to do with my family. I tell people it runs in my blood. It's genetic for me. This desk, this room, this is the same office that my father practiced in for over 20 years. So the sperm cell that made me was a fertility doctor and OBGYN, and the sperm cell that made him was the same. And my grandfather delivered my mother, no joke. And when my mother came out, the story is he raised the baby up and said, "This girl is for my son." And then when I came out, the story is I came out and I said, "Who wants a baby?" And I think that's what happened. When you have 2 generations. I just came up with that. I thought that was a good line. 2 generations of people who love bringing love into this world. And it's no wonder they named me Amy, which means loved one, and then, or love. And then there's no wonder that the first 2 letters of my name are AI, artificial intelligence. I mean, it's like, my parents predicted this, that I'd be a fertility doctor and practicing at a time when AI, to answer your other question, is truly, I think, one of the biggest breakthroughs that we're going to see in our time when it comes to fertility, as far as sperm selection, embryo selection, the ability to help more patients who can't access care. AI will bring care to them in a way that we've never seen before.
So is it egg or sperm morphology that AI is going to get after? Or are we going to have genetic scattergrams, of what's in that cell that we can kind of, AI can cull through and make sure there's no deletions, that kind of thing?
Everything that you just said, yes. So there's a program called Violet. It's an AI program to look morphologically at eggs. There's another program called SID, and SID is an AI program that picks out the best looking sperm. And there are other programs that look at embryos as they're developing in the incubator. And they also have algorithms that tell us, the fertility doctors, which embryo to select before we put them in a uterus.
Incredible. And Susan, you want to get in on this too? Because I know you have a lot of strong feelings about it, having been down this road. Her great contribution was she predicted folate as an important supplement before fertility treatment. You remember that?
Yes.
Yep. You want to speak to Amy?
I got a textbook from UCLA on biology and read up on it. I was like, okay, what should I take? So that's how I discovered that.
And that was back in the days they were talking about neural tube defects and improving that function with folic acid.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Dr. Amy says yes. But now
I did the best I could.
But now you were it worked out okay.
They all came out healthy. So
and now you're an advocate. This makes perfect sense to me for the oxidative state of the cell, of the embryo, of the eggs, of the this whole pathway that I've been advocating for and taking supplements to increase NAD. Turns out, lo and behold, I mean, you think about it, any health function, it should enhance. And fertility is one of those functions of health. Tell me about how you got into that. And yeah, you mentioned also that you also take it as well as I do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a brilliant patient of mine who introduced me to True Niagen. And she was an over 40-year-old PhD scientist. And she had gone through IVF cycles that failed. They did not work. Her embryos were not normal, or they just didn't develop at all. And she found a mouse study that showed that by replenishing NAD+ in mice who weren't making it on their own, they had improved fertility rates. So she took it. She came to me. We did IVF. And had she not done IVF with me and shared her results with me, I would have thought she was lying. Her embryos were gorgeous. Yeah. She had more than one normal embryo, which is highly unusual for a woman over 40. And that was when I said, this is amazing. I need every single person going through fertility to take it. I not only take it myself to hopefully slow the onset of menopause for me, it might also help decrease the rate of bone loss in women who are going through what I call menopause. That's what I call menopause. I don't want to call it menopause because it shouldn't start with men.
You like that one. You're right.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So, and my patients have shared stories where, they heard me talk about, or just people who listen to me on social media, where they took it and then they got pregnant naturally. And that's really my goal, is I want people to empower themselves with the tools so that they can get pregnant without my help. That's really the goal. I don't want people to be my patient. I want people to get pregnant at home without my help. Not everyone can do that, but if possible.
And You have a specific protocol you use, like what dosing and frequency and whatnot?
Yeah, I do. I tell patients to start low. So if someone's a little bit on the anxious side, and so many of my patients are, as you can imagine, going through a fertility journey. So the way to start low is to get the True Niagen powder sticks first. Then you can titrate your dose in water, in your smoothie. Then the next dose is a 300 milligram. Yeah.
I want to stop you. What are there symptoms you're looking for, adverse side effects, or what are you looking for? Because I've never experienced anything taken except people say I don't look as old, so I just always wonder if that's why. So
I love it. Yes, you're ageless. The most common side effect patients share with me.
Niagen.
Thank you, True Niagen. Our joke in our household, it's the blue pill. You know what I'm talking about. So with thank you. With the True Niagen, some patients experience heart palpitations, slight feelings of anxiety, and insomnia.
Really?
Start at a super high dose. Yeah, like the 500 milligram dose.
Young people, Drew. Young people.
No, but I've been having a little bit of insomnia lately, and I moved up to 1,000 recently. And I thought,
gynecologist, we solved your problem. Yep. Yeah. So melatonin, magnesium or melatonin can help with that. So I advise my patients to make sure you have some melatonin. And then if you wake up, I wake up jumping out of bed. I'm like, who can I help today? And I've always been like that. But True Niagen, I feel like just takes that up. I'm a lot. I'm 100% all the time. And I feel like with True Niagen, it's just I'm way more than that. And the thing is that if someone's not used to feeling that way, they might think something's wrong with them. And what I reassure them is this is actually normal. So if you feel like you're jumping out of bed, but it's 4 a.m., be sure to take your True Niagen first thing in the morning. I advise before 10 a.m. and then slowly go up. There's no rush to get up to 1,000 milligrams a day. My patients who are going through fertility treatment, my goal for them is 1,000 milligrams a day. So I say start at 300 and slowly make your way up to 900. And then once you're there, get a 500 and a 1,000 milligram pill bottle. And then you can kind of alternate. You don't have to take 1,000 every day. Some days you can take 500. Some days you can have 1,000. I have 3 bottles. I have a 300, a 500, and 1,000 here. I take it in my office in the mornings. So that's what I advise my patients to do too.
And if any of you have who?
Guys. So I think it can
help
as well.
I'm with you. In terms of the fertility, it can help with the sperm motility and whatnot, I'm sure.
Also vitamin C.
So
that's what I read in that book.
For fertility.
I told you to take it.
Okay.
It worked.
Okay. So be it.
Oh, and then no jacuzzis, remember?
Oh yeah, that was all. I'm sure that's in Amy's protocol right now even.
I have a t-shirt that I wear that says don't cook your balls.
Yeah, keep the balls cool, but not too cool.
I like you.
But I want to point out, Amy, there's no evidence. If anybody has bipolar disorder, there's no evidence that Amy has that. That's not what she's talking about. Nor have I ever read any shred of evidence that somebody with bipolar could be decompensated by this supplement. So I just want to point that out for anybody that might have the common condition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a number of patients who see me with mood disorders, and I don't see that it harms them. If anything, patients who have depression, I think it can help them.
And then in terms of, I understand you think about this as sort of, pregnancy itself is a big stress on the body. Tell me how you conceptualize that.
Absolutely. I mean, crazy fact. I mean, the physical stress and amount of energy produced during a full-term pregnancy is equivalent to running a 40-week marathon, right? So, shouldn't we prepare?
But if you have 3 circulatory systems developing in there, that's how many marathons you feel like you were.
That's just on a whole other level. 3. That's nuts. Yeah. I mean, pregnancy is the most energetically expensive activity the human body can maintain for 9 months, and maintaining NAD levels, I think, is really important for not only pregnancy, but pre and post. And this is basically why I have this, I call it the 10-minute mile rule. And I tell my patients, until you can run a 10-minute mile, you are not physically prepared enough for pregnancy. And I know some people have, there's physical issues where they can't run a 10-minute mile, but you can use that as an analogy. So it's really important for me to, educate my patients about this very fact. And that's why, NAD, increasing NAD plus levels in the body is part of that.
Is it something you can use during breastfeeding as well?
You can. There are some preclinical studies out of UC Davis showing that it can actually help with lactation. So if I have a patient that shares with me that she's dealing with lactation issues, I suggest that she go back on her True Niagen, because that's something that she probably already had when she was trying to get pregnant with me, not with me. You know what I mean?
I get you. Are there other preclinical trials you're involved with?
I personally am not involved in any preclinical trials at this moment. However, that is something that we're considering. There are preclinical trials, however, that have been done showing that increased egg counts are being seen and increased live birth rates, as well as decrease in abnormalities seen in aging eggs. These are in mouse and rat models. And there are other preclinical studies that have showed that NR supplementation improved embryo development. And these are the things that my patients, they need. They need better quality eggs, need better quality embryos, because my average patient tends to be over the age of 40. And that's kind of how the world and society is right now. Our milestones in life are just happening later. And just because you've run out of healthy eggs does not mean that you've run out of a desire to have a baby. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with every day.
Other wellness practices or lifestyle changes you recommend?
I do. I mean, I think I love analogies, and I thought of this one analogy this morning, and I was like, it's like a duck analogy. You know that saying, you need all your ducks in a row, right? And for pregnancy, it should be the same. It should be your first duck should be relationship with yourself. Your next duck should be relationship with your partner, if partnered. The next duck should be, there are all these ducks that should be in a row. And so the things that I talk to my patients about are, do you want an acupuncture duck? Do you need therapy, coaching, community groups? These are all great additions to a self-care routine. The other thing I talk to my patients about is our sleep hygiene, electrolytes, protein intake, and looking at your diet. And I have all sorts of resources that I share with my patients. So those are the little ducks that I go through with my patients. And everyone knows that saying, are your ducks in a row? So we want them in a row. You don't want your life to be a mess. You're out of shape. You're taking the wrong medications going into pregnancy, because pregnancy is one of the most, it's a beautiful journey. And we want it to be healthy for people.
And things aren't going to get easier after that journey. If you have chaos before. And other than protein, any other dietary suggestions that are sort of easy to think about?
I mean, I think a diet that's colorful and rich in antioxidants. A lot of people know what the Mediterranean diet is. So I don't necessarily think you have to follow a Mediterranean diet, but I think a diet that's rich in fruits and vegetables and low in saturated fats. And there is a great book called Getting to Baby by Judy Simon and Dr. Angela Thayer that I recommend to my patients that has some of the best fertility nutrition information out there.
And then finally, other supplements that you recommend in your supplement stack.
Absolutely. So aside from a really good prenatal that has choline and folic acid in it, I also recommend CoQ10. Those are the few things. So CoQ10, prenatal, True Niagen. And then if a patient, because I don't want people to be just taking supplements all day long, but if someone has a problem sleeping, add in melatonin. If someone has PCOS, which is so common, I have them consider adding something like Ovasitol. That might help with improving glucose levels in a more natural way.
That's interesting. I'm just thinking, is there anything else? Susan, do you have any questions for Dr. Amy? I know this is an area that you feel very strongly about.
No, you're doing a great job, Drew.
Yeah, this is very interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I love this. I just reposted it on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a field that you're absolutely right. Everyone that goes into it, I talk to other practitioners. They say, this is people don't like. I'm an internist. People die, they get sick. None of that. There's frustration, but usually there's happiness. And
well, fertility problems are no joke. Like it's it's very difficult for women I had fertility problems, but I really wanted kids. Fortunately, I was married to a doctor and it worked out, but I also I know a lot about this stuff, and Drew does too, but it's very confusing. And if you have to go to a fertility specialist, you want to have somebody good like Dr. Amy, and
not only that, I feel like people don't understand
fears.
that's what they should do. It's funny to me that people don't understand that that's part of what you do if fertility is stalled out at any age, frankly, but especially as you get older, you should be seems to me. Do you have any ideas like that? I to me, anybody over 35.
Are women getting pregnant later now, or are we?
Well, she said yes, that they're delaying sort of stages of life, but people need to be, it seems to me if you're over 35, you should be prepared that could be in your future. Should people be doing it as a matter of course?
Yeah, I mean, when I use these analogies, like if people go on a safari, what do? They go to the travel clinic first. It should be the same thing about pregnancy. Yeah. You should talk about your goals, what you want, how old you're going to be when you want to have your last baby, so you can reach those goals. And our fertility declines. It's just a fact. It's not me being mean. It's not me trying to scare people, but we will all run out of eggs. It is inevitable. A fertility doctor doesn't have that magic wand. We can't all of a sudden create eggs out of nowhere. So I try on my, with what I do on my platform, just educate people about fertility facts so that they never look back and say, I wish I had known that, so that they can make the right choices for themselves to freeze eggs, freeze embryos as a way to preserve fertility. So I just don't want people to have regret.
Yeah, I've always said women should have control of their reproductive biology. It can happen now, no problem. And last question I have is, if you are going to say, let's stay with freezing eggs, does the True Niagen help the viability of those eggs and health?
Yes, I believe absolutely. So I put all my egg freezers on it. So I ask them, the 25-year-olds, for example, I suggest that they take True Niagen, CoQ10, and a good multivitamin all at the same time.
And what's the mechanism on CoQ10?
It's also a mitochondrial booster. So anything that helps the mitochondria will help prevent chromosomal abnormalities in our eggs once they're fertilized.
CoQ10. Oh, after CoQ10?
Yes, with CoQ10.
You said True Niagen, CoQ10, and also
a good multivitamin.
A multivitamin.
Vitamin C. Oh,
no,
okay.
Multivitamin. A pregnancy vitamin. What do you guys call those vitamins?
It can be a prenatal, just a general multivitamin.
Yeah, got it. Listen, Dr. Amy, it's been a privilege to talk to you. Congratulations on all the good work you're doing. I'm sure it was not a short road to where you are. I'm looking at your training, and I'm just adding up the number of years you spent out there. And
it took 17 years to figure out how to make a baby. Yeah. 17, apparently.
Yeah. Well,
you must love seeing those little babies come out.
What?
It's the best. It's so fun to get to be a part of my patients' lives. They're family to me.
That's great.
I bet.
And other than the Egg Whisperer, where do you want people to follow you?
Anything Egg Whisperer, honestly. YouTube, Instagram. I also have courses, eggwhispererschool.com, where people who can't be my patient because of where they live, they can also learn from me. So anywhere that you can type in Egg Whisperer, maybe OnlyFans one day. That's a joke.
Yeah, but who knows? I don't know. It's a joke, but it's that whole landscape confuses me. Maybe it will be something like that one day.
Well, I do have this one thing called the Tushy Method. You have to go to tushymethod.com to see what I'm talking about. But my joke is that
done
and done. I mean, my joke is that it takes something so drastic, I have to say things like that because I'm still not getting people's attention about the tests that you should do to check your fertility. So I hope the things that I say will get someone to learn about their fertility so that they don't cry one day that they didn't know this stuff.
Yeah, it's people need to be realistic about it and prepared like anything. Susan, you're trying to say something to me? No, I haven't been told I can do that yet. So let's wait.
I want to know, what is it?
So
I have to clear it.
Use your imagination, but we're going to get clearance from other family members before I announce stuff like that.
Got it.
So, Dr. Amy, we appreciate you being here. I hope you'll stay in touch and get back with us soon.
Would love that. Thanks, Dr. Drew. So nice.
Thank you so much. Well done.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. So that was fun. Let me look at you guys out on the
I didn't say it.
I know. And out I want to put up the schedule too, because it's a little bit wonky coming up. We are going to be not here tomorrow. We are going up to Canada, as we mentioned. Yes, plants heal. CoQ10 is good for the heart. It's also good for people on statins because you get depleted in CoQ10.
Yeah, I was taking that before. I got to take that again.
Hesitant. Oh, no, I'm hesitant because, just stop it. What? Somebody's calling me a pussy for ridiculous reasons because I'm hesitant to divulge something that it's somebody else's secret, somebody else's business. Be that as it may, let's get that schedule up there. So we're actually coming back on Wednesday, which will be Kyle Kemper. Let me get all the details here on everybody. Give me a second. Day after that is Salty Cracker. Everyone has been asking, where is Salty Cracker? He's coming back on June 27th. I think that's a Thursday. Kyle Kemper is another sibling. It's Justin Trudeau's half-brother. And then we have we'll go back to our usual schedule, Dr. Andrew Huff, EcoHealth whistleblower. Dr. Christine Stabell-Ben on the Tuesday following that, July 9th. Are we going to be taking off the 3rd, 4th, and 5th? Is that what's happening there?
We have a show maybe on the 3rd. We're just deciding.
I see. It just hasn't been scheduled yet.
Yeah.
And Dave Rubin on July 10th.
But there's 14 days in July. So
that was why you were saying that.
Yeah. We usually do like 10 shows a month.
And the great Dave Rubin will be in studio.
It's also summer. We're supposed to enjoy the long weekends.
And we've got Dr. Marty Markery. Is that how you pronounce it? Mackery? Scheduled up for later this month.
Macarena.
Not Macarena. Anyway, appreciate you guys being here. Let me again look at the comments before we wrap this up. Yeah, Maureen is up in Canada waiting for us. We're going to be up there with weunify.ca.
And then our wellness company buddies.
The wellness company buddies are many of the greatest hits.
But we're going to be rioted out. But we're
going to get to meet Dr. Alexander for the first time.
Yes.
We're going to be with Dr. McCullough. We're going to be with Steve Kirsch even.
Apparently we're causing trouble up there already. So
fantastic.
Hopefully we'll get out alive, you guys. Hopefully.
Thank you, Claire. Appreciate it. And then going over to, all right, so that's about it. You guys have nothing on your mind there. Come to Austin. Greg, we came to Austin. We were going to Austin every 6 weeks. Come because you want to be we used to come in July. It was hot as hell in August too. But we are not on that schedule right now since the Your Mom's House stuff wrapped up. Okay, so we'll be up in Canada this weekend. We will see you on Wednesday because we're traveling on Tuesday. Appreciate you all being here. Appreciate our guests today, and we'll see you then. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.